Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to the quarter two results for the So Nice They Named It Twice video game backlog challenge thing. Now, if this is your first time tuning into one of these videos, at the beginning of every year, I set a video game resolution for myself, for lack of a better word. But it's not really a goal. It's kind of just like something to force me to look into my backlog with a theme and to pick out games that I wouldn't normally play or just games that, just keep getting pushed to the back. So for this year, because this is the second year I'm doing this particular thing, I decided to call this one, the second year in a row rather, the So Nice They Named It Twice challenge, which is what this is. And I've tasked myself with playing and completing 12 different sequels to games I've played the first entry in, and presumably love the rest of the series. So, so Q1 had some really good stuff, and the purpose of it as well is to figure out, okay, I liked the first entry, the second entry didn't really grip me. Maybe I'm not as big a fan of this series as I thought, and in some cases, like Space Marine, didn't really care for the first one, and the second one was an absolute banger. So for Q2, I decided to take it a little bit of a little bit of a gray area here. So the first one we did was Life is Strange Double Exposure. Now you may be like, hang on, Alex, wait a minute. Hold up. They already had a Life is Strange 2. They did. However, this is a sequel with Max Caulfield, the most superior of all Life is Strange protagonists, if you ask me. So, Max Caulfield is the leading lady from the original Life is Strange that debuted back on the PS3, PS4, PC, and everything. Back when this stuff was episodic, and now they just realize they can't make money doing it, so they just throw it all on a disc and call it quits for the most part. And it was a phenomenal game. My wife and I, we played through that. We enjoyed it so much. She is a social worker, and she works with kids in high schools. So seeing stuff like this, for her it seems like a little bit of work, but at the same time, watching how, I'll say, a layperson plays these, she's like, what is wrong with you? Like, from a social perspective, and, how I interact with students. She's like, so for her, it's more interesting to see how immature her husband actually is. But she enjoyed it enough. She cried at the ending, actually. I'm not going to say which one we went with. But we kind of play it like a choose your own adventure. Like, I'll pause it and go, what do you think? And we'll debate on it. It becomes a thing for us. It's really quite fun. And then we did Before the Storm, which was a prequel game. That one we really enjoyed. I feel like we enjoyed it more than most people. And then Life is Strange 2 is when they started to really touch on, I'm going to say, a little bit of current political stuff. And my wife, she found it a little off-putting because, unfortunately, she had to deal with some of this, we'll say, weird stuff at an old school she worked with. So it was a little traumatizing. So she actually bowed out of Life is Strange 2 at, I'll say the third episode. She's like, I can't watch this anymore. This is too much. At this point, it was just getting really triggering for her. So she backed out completely. But then we came to True Colors, and she was like, okay, this is what I like. This is the one. And then when we saw the announcement for Double Exposure, she was like, oh my God, Max is back. This is so exciting. I can't wait. And we booted it up, and she's like, oh, so she's in a college now. And I'm like, no, she's like a professor. And she's like, wait, what? And then, remembering everything, she's like, oh, wow, so she continued with the photography thing. And basically what happens is, vaguely, Max goes to work at a university as a visiting photography instructor, and somehow her powers are reawakened and have evolved. Double exposure basically means because she takes pictures and she's able to go through exposures of time as opposed to traveling back in time. And you're basically doing a whole weird murder mystery. And one thing, and this is going to sound a little bit spoilery, the Life is Strange, we'll say, universe has a lot of these very weird, we'll call them thematic psychics. You could even look at a game like Tell Me Why, which is another Don't Nod joint, which was exclusive to the Xbox and was also quite good. The two of us enjoyed that one as well. This game did not sell well at all. I don't know if it's a time and place thing. I don't know if everybody's kind of burnt out on this whole thing. Your boy loves time travel. I already knew I was going to go into this and really enjoy it. And I like how they kept a lot of that point and click roots to it. I like how they really expanded the university. I mean, there really aren't that many environments, there's only a handful. But it really does encourage you to walk around and talk to the students. Some of these are Max's students. You know, they're like, hey, teach. And, you know, she's talking to them. And the jokes in there are like, I'll say late 80s, 90s kids, early 2000s jokes. Like at one point, there's a Billy Madison quote in there, and I just burst out laughing because she literally walks up to a bunch of her students and goes, "Hey there, my fellow kids." And I was like, oh my God, Steve Buscemi. This is wonderful. The dialogue is so naturally written. Even the new, we'll say, co-protagonist, who replaces, we'll say for lack of a better word, replaces Chloe. Phenomenal acting. I cannot sing higher praises of this game enough. Slight spoiler, there will be another one. These games do well enough. However, now that this one seemed to have some difficulty, I'm not so sure how fast that'll come out. But when it does, I guarantee you my wife and I are going to be there on day one. Because Max, if it's starring Max, oh man. Alex too. I liked Alex Cheng, but Max, man, she to me is always been the best one, if you ask me. Next game I finished was Knights of Azure 2, The Bride of the New Moon. So Knights of Azure, I played the first game like back in, let me look at the backlog, 2017. I think it says 2017 in here, but I may have just re-added it because I originally got it out of my collection at one point. So if you don't know, these are what we call a cultured game. And in this case, basically vampire hunters who go about trying to stop the forthcoming Eternal Night. So the sequel game, which takes place hundreds of years after the first, is more of the same. To be honest, it's very basic. Gust, we're trying to be Koei Tecmo, but not really. Hack and slash with a bunch of perverted camera angles. For whatever reason, we're going to go to a swimming pool and have black bands for bikinis and all this other stuff. Fan service aside, the story of the game is actually really good, and there are a lot of branching paths, and there are a lot of side quests that you can do to blow up this story as much as you want. But at the same time, the game itself is succinct enough that by the time you start to get bored of it, it's over, which is probably to its benefit. The last boss is incredibly anime. You're pretty much just going in there and they do like a whole like song and dance thing because, you know, you've come to the realization of who you are. And there's a couple of different endings and, you know, like I said, a bunch of side quests and, you know, developmental quests and all that stuff. Because let's be honest, everybody following the Persona train because everything has to have a social link at this point. And I will say, while this game is better than the first game, which ultimately was kind of middle of the road, this one just felt very short. If you don't do any of the side stuff, it's over in 12 hours. If you do a bunch of the side stuff, you're done in like 15 or 16. If you do all the side stuff, maybe you'll push it to 22. The environments are very, very bland and boring. Everything, you kind of just, they recycle the same things over and over again. The monsters get a little boring. The special abilities aren't all that great. You have to find your little assistant buddies who ultimately only 3 of them do anything useful. But guess what? All of this is really just an engine to get you through all this character development and story because the characters are really what make this game, not the combat, not the fan service. Which is to its detriment and to its benefit at the same time. If you're looking for a very quick pick up and play action game with some RPG stuff going on, this is the bet for you. But if you're looking for something a little bit longer, involved, and more like beating up hundreds upon hundreds of dudes at the same time, well, guess what? That's what happened to me, and that's why we went to Fire Emblem Heroes 3 Hopes. Oh, yeah, that's right. We went right from the Dynasty Warriors wannabe to the Dynasty Warriors OMG spinoff. And I have to be honest here. At this point, I love Muso games. I love the Dynasty Warriors series. I am actually really, really tired of the whole Three Kingdoms stuff. I love the spinoffs so much more at this point. The Berserk one, you can do no better. The One Piece one, so good. I would love a Dragon Ball Z one, to be fair. And also, coming off of recent news with the Switch 2, there is going to be a sequel to Hyrule Warriors again. This one with Zelda once again doing her wackadoo time travel stuff. But I think this one is more so going into the past, while the other one was like an alternate timeline. Because, Zelda. But Three Hopes is essentially that. It's an alternate timeline where Byleth never became the professor, and as a matter of fact, the school done blown up. But your character is a mercenary, and, you can pick a female or male protagonist just like the other ones, and, you can go through the whole skill tree and everything else and all that stuff. And while I was really cool to see the Three Houses crew again, I'll be honest, Three Houses is not my favorite Fire Emblem game. The school thing I had no problems with, just like all the characters were tropey. I actually I enjoyed Engage a lot more because Engage was more strategic, even though those characters were also equally as tropey. But other than Dorothy, I was kind of like, I don't know. And it is kind of that. Sylvain, he's good too. But, Lucina will forever be my girl. Crom, Roy, my boy Alm, Cecilia. Oh, those are my guys. Those are my guys and gals. This one, truthfully, I went with the Blue House. I went with Ferdinand or whatever his name is because I can't even remember already. And I pretty much picked the same team I carried with Felix and just carried myself to the end of the game. The stakes feel a lot higher than they did in the original Fire Emblem Heroes, which is ultimately just, like, hey, we found ourselves in the weird realm of Fire Emblem Awakening, like one of those things. I really wish they made these more of like an anniversary thing, kind of like Engage did with like, their weird, like, equip old Fire Emblem protagonist thing. But make it a Muso game and just like, like a Warriors Orochi thing or a Warriors All-Stars and just pick everybody. Because if it was up to me, my triple team would be Cecilia, Lucina, and Alm. That's it. Maybe even the tactician from Awakening. Or even the main character from Engage. The female actress for her was phenomenal. But if you like Muso games, it's really good. There is way more strategy in this one than there was in the previous one as well. It is a lot more about utilizing all your troops, including the ones that you actually don't take control of. Because you'll go in and you'll be able to control like 2 or 3 of your guys, but you're picking like 5. You can give them orders on the map, but you can't actually control them. You can quote unquote equip them as a buddy for add-on and to build affinity and all that stuff because you gotta. And it's all well and good, but some of it in terms of like the dialogue and the relationship building and everything else, it's an alternate timeline. Some of the stuff, like particularly with Felix, I was just like, I kind of liked him. I like the original Felix. I kind of like this character a bit more the way they used to be. There's a lot of that, but they basically took what existed and changed it just enough where it kept it interesting, which it was. But it is a very, very long game. We're pushing over 30 hours here. I think it took me 36, 37 by the end. And I was doing some extra missions and stuff because it really benefits you to do that for the purpose of like leveling up your base so that way you get better weapons and whatnot. But because by the end, Alessandro was just one-shotting everything. I was just literally just bulldozing. Forget the rock, paper, scissors. I'm wielding a sword, you're using an axe, F you. Just through everything. Very, very satisfying. It's a really fun game, especially if you're looking just to do... The missions, some of them tend to be long. The story ones are very long. But if you're just there just to like, mindlessly hit buttons and just tune out for a bit, this is the perfect game for that because you get just enough story that it makes you want to go on to the next stage and it doesn't make it feel stale at all. And then following that, we went on to Psychonauts 2, which is the final game of the Q2 So Nice They Named It Twice sequel challenge. The original Psychonauts was a very experimental game. It's from Tim Schafer, who may as well be called the Tim Burton of video games because that's who he is, but funnier. And this game oozes Tim Burton. It oozes Coraline. It oozes Corpse Party. Not Corpse Party, sorry, Corpse Bride. Oozes all of those things. Nightmare Before Christmas, very much that design aesthetic. While the first game dealt with young Rasputin Aquato going to psychic telekinesis summer camp and basically going into the minds of all the different characters and basically helping them solve their problems with an overarching conspiracy. The Psychonauts are really just like what it sounds like. They're a government-ish agency that basically, tries to fix people's brains. It's very rudimentary. It's very interesting. It allows for a lot of creativity when it comes to the level design, but it was also confined to the original Xbox, the PC, and the PS2. And 3D platformers at that time, they were all good, they were all great, but they were inherently stiff and clunky. Now, years and years and years and years later, people have been clamoring for a Psychonauts 2. Finally, in the prime time of crowdfunding and the glorious days of the YouTube gaming community and people promoting Kickstarters left and right, I came to find out this game was on Fig, which is basically a crowdfunding platform, but it's meant for investors. But a bunch of gamers were throwing money into it. And I did not remember any of this because this was around the time that Microsoft started buying studios like No Tomorrow, Double Fine being one of them. And this game came out exclusively on the Xbox for a time and then eventually PC before finally landing on the PS4, which is where I played it. And I truthfully only remembered it was a crowdfunding game when I got to the credits and was like, wow, these are long. I was like, what are all these names? I was like, oh yeah, it got crowdfunded. And it probably sold like shit because it was on Game Pass at the time. And this was when Microsoft was doing all their repair. And sure enough, I think that's the case. I want a fucking sequel. I bought this game day one when it came out on PS4, and I just got to it today. I really enjoyed the first one. Design alone, never mind the actual fun I had. This game I should have played day one, and I didn't, but I am so happy I waited to play it. This game, even though it's on the PS4, even though I think it came out like 2019, something like that, it feels brand new. The only thing that feels old and clunky is the combat. You have a dodge button that is fucking useless, all right? You dodge into pain anyway. But the platforming, the music, the voice acting, the humor, the message of the game, all of that is great. And I think that is the biggest strength of this game, besides the platforming and the level design, is the message. And it literally tells you that right at the beginning of the game, what it is. When you play it, you'll see it for yourselves. And, me going through it, I tried to keep that in the back of my mind. Like, yeah, they told me this is what the message is of that game. And every level has a riff off of that message. There are some disclaimers. There are some warnings in there because there's a lot of dark, mental, triggering stuff in there. If you look deep enough and if you're sensitive to it, you will be. Not a spoiler. It's the first level. It deals a lot with teeth and dentistry. I mean, you all know the villain anyway. But it is kind of gross. And if that stuff weirds you out, that first level is going to be very difficult. It is, in fact, a sequel to the Rhombus of Ruin, which was the PSVR game. Rasputin gives you a quick rundown of what happened in the first game and the Rhombus of Ruin anyway, because, and I don't think he says it, but I think like a thing pops up saying probably never played it, like a little like inside joke because nobody played them. And that's the whole thing about this series, man. They're so good and nobody played them. That's the thing. Everybody sings praises about Psychonauts, but when I'm like, oh, have you actually played it? They're like, no. It's Tim Schafer though. It has to be good, right? It is good. I could not have been happier playing this game. It's like 15 hours. There are a ton of side missions because now in this game, Rasputin is not at a summer camp. He's actually at Psychonauts HQ as an intern. And there's other interns, and, he's the latest intern. And of course he comes in due to, silliness, because as you do. And, he's trying to fit in, and they even say like he's 4'0", literally. But it is a very powerful message this game tries to convey. And by the end of the fight, I was like, oh, it was so good. It was so good. And I was telling my wife about it, as somebody who works in mental health. And she has told me that the movie Inside Out, is it Inside Out? Yeah, Inside Out, a favorite movie of mine, favorite movie of hers, as somebody who deals in mental health, says this movie, she's told me this movie is the best way to explain emotions to a young person. Like, truthfully, she's like, this is the best way you could ever explain it. Pixar figured this out, or DreamWorks, or whoever it is. When I explained what this game was doing in terms of the gameplay, in terms of what it was showing in the level design and everything else, she goes, this is literally how you show people how to deal with grief. Because everybody grieves differently, you know? And I was like, so you're going to play? She's like, fuck no. I saw you doing that thing where you had to roll around on a ball. I'm not doing that. But she watched a lot of it, and she was like, wow, the writing in this game is phenomenal. As somebody who works in the space I work in, she's like, I would definitely give this to somebody who was trying to come to terms with their own personal struggles with some of these issues. Or at least I would tell them to watch a YouTube video or something just of the cutscenes, because she said they were so well written and they must have had a consultant on it. And it's so good, guys. You got to check it out. It's on sale all the time at this point. Steam, Game Pass, PS4, PSN, I don't care. Psychonauts 2 is a certified gem as far as I'm concerned. And I am so happy that I decided to pull this one out of the backlog for the So Nice, they named it twice, Backlog Challenge. I've been Alex, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.